We're going to take a look at the carbon cycle in Module 7. Here's a picture of the carbon cycle. So when the carbon is in the atmosphere, it's going to be as carbon dioxide. And then when it gets turned into biomolecules through photosynthesis, like in this tree over here, it gets turned into different biomolecules. So maybe like carbohydrates or proteins, lipids, or even nucleic acids. So, and then maybe we've got an animal, or maybe we're talking about humans. And so then they're going to get all of their biomolecules by eating the plant or eating an animal or other organism that ate the plant, and then that's where we get all of our carbon from. And then when the tree or the animal dies, then we've got decomposers, which would be bacteria and fungi. And so then they will decompose all of the biomolecules in the body, and then that will then go into the soil and then be available to be taken up by plants again. And we also have some of the carbon that will also be given off as carbon dioxide as the microorganisms break down the carbon that's in our body. And they do that through cellular respiration, because that will give off the byproduct of carbon dioxide. And then we've also got here in yellow, all of this is giving us just the natural flow of carbon through the environment. And these numbers are giving us the billions of tons of carbon dioxide or carbon that moves through the environment per year. And then in red is the carbon coming from human activity. And then in white is the carbon sinks. And a carbon sink is just where carbon is going to be stored, and it's going to be storing more carbon than it's giving off. And that's what a carbon sink is. So you can see like the ocean is a pretty big carbon sink here. So it stores quite a bit of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And then you can also see the fossil fuels. That's also a pretty big carbon sink, which unfortunately we're burning and then putting that carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on just part of the carbon cycle. So we're going to be looking at photosynthesis, and this is where plants are going to be taking the carbon dioxide gas from the air, and then they're going to be incorporating that into biomolecules. And so they're able to make their own food, like carbohydrates, and then they can also make other biomolecules that they need, like proteins and lipids and nucleic acids. And then they will release oxygen as a byproduct when they do photosynthesis. And then here we've got this giraffe, which will be doing cellular respiration. And when they do cellular respiration, they're going to be taking the food that they're consuming, like these leaves, and they will break down the biomolecules in the leaves through the process of cellular respiration. And then all of the carbon in those biomolecules will be released as the waste product carbon dioxide, which the giraffe will just exhale. And in order to do cellular respiration, we need oxygen to be able to do that. So the products of photosynthesis, the oxygen, is going to be used by cellular respiration that this animal is going to be doing, and then the carbon dioxide that's released by the giraffe as a waste product can be used by the plant in doing photosynthesis. So everything will cycle around here. Okay, and then we just have a couple of terms here that we use to describe our photosynthetic organisms and then organisms that are not photosynthetic. So an autotroph is just an organism that can make its own food. So auto means self and troph means feeding, so they're self-feeding. So this would be, for example, plants. We also have algae and cyanobacteria over here. We do have photosynthetic bacteria, if you didn't know that, which is kind of interesting. And so they're able to do photosynthesis and can actually make their own food. And another name that we will also give to these photosynthetic organisms is we can also call them photoautotrophs, just meaning that they use light energy to make their own food when they do photosynthesis. And then heterotrophs. Hetero just means other, and troph means feeding, so it just means they're going to feed on others. So they can't make their own food, so they've got to consume other organisms for their food. So you can see these deer feeding on the leaves on the tree, so they have to eat other organisms because they can't make their own food. They're not photosynthetic, so that would be a heterotroph. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on photosynthesis and cellular respiration in this module. And so we're going to be starting with cellular respiration first. And in cellular respiration, we're going to be using our mitochondria to break down our food like glucose. And we need oxygen to do this process for the mitochondria to work. And when we break apart the glucose has some energy stored in it, and as we break it apart, we're going to take that energy stored in glucose and make ATP. And then the ATP is going to be used to do work in the cell, like maybe we need to move our muscles, or maybe we need to do some anabolic reactions, we need some energy for that, or maybe we're doing some active transport or something like that. And then all the carbons that are in glucose will get converted into carbon dioxide. And then we'll also be making some water. And then in photosynthesis, which is done in the chloroplasts of our plants, they're going to take the carbon dioxide and also the water and use that along with the light energy to make a carbohydrate like glucose. And then oxygen will be the byproduct. And then those will then be used by the mitochondria to do cellular respiration, which produces carbon dioxide and water. And then photosynthesis will use that. And it just creates this cycle there.